Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. I'm sure that a few of you have already seen this story. It's been making the rounds through the algorithm. Our brother Tarian Rain did a nice in-depth piece about this, and if you haven't seen it on his channel, you should. And under the circumstances, I decided that I should go ahead and throw in my 2 cents about this. Now, you got an organization called the Daddy Stroller Social Club. It was started by black men, largely to bring attention to some of the mental difficulties and issues that go along with being a new father.
Calvin Bridgewater is the man who started it all.
I started around 3.5 years ago. Started based off of experiencing postpartum depression as a dad. Not having those resources, not having those communities. So I want to thank y'all again for coming out here.
But it turns out these men were not as alone as they thought.
Started at 4 dads, and now we're sitting at 75 dads.
The club is also expanding to 7 cities, including Atlanta, Memphis, Oakland, and Seattle. And in every city, these meetups feature a daddy-baby stride.
What made you say, I've got to do this?
Moved here to Cleveland, had my baby about 2 months after that. Didn't know anyone, and I was kind of going through the baby blues a little bit myself. I was like, I don't feel normal.
Scrolling through Instagram one day, he came across a guy group in Dallas, the Daddy Stroller Social Club.
Just a bunch of dads that got together, and I said, I think that's the community I need.
That's how the Cleveland chapter was born.
The reason that I show up and the reason that I organized this was just to make some dad friends. Plain and simple.
He started by setting a date and finding a place to meet, but then he had to find the dads.
Literally, if I was just out on my normal routine, going to the grocery store, and I'd see a dad there with his child, I'd go up to him, hey, we've got this thing going on at this date, at this time. You want to come through? Feel free.
He says the first stroller stride had a handful of dads. Now their largest so far, about 50.
What they decided was that they would actually lean on each other, and of course that's something that black people need to do because that's what actually works. The founders of the Daddy Stroller Social Club also decided that they should come together in order to push back against the negative stereotypes and images of black fathers that the white media persists in putting out there. Now, you have fathers, by some accounts numbering in the hundreds, pushing strollers with their adorable babies, and even with their children, some of them teenagers, in tow. A mass family outing is what it is. This is a reinforcement of the institution of the family, which the white right in particular tells us every moment is under attack. Fox News and the Newsmaxes and other white supremacist sock puppets are always talking about how the family is not being supported by the culture, and that we need to bring attention to families, especially those black people. Oh, they don't know what family's about, especially those black men. Okay, well, you had dozens, if not hundreds, of black men with their babies and children in tow, in public, a mass demonstration, and Fox News didn't even speak about it. Here's some real men doing what the conservative pundits never could, putting on a mass demonstration of fatherhood. These are true champions of the family, not fraudsters like the Palins or the Bidens or Trump. Fathers as a group pushing baby strollers and telling the world how important fatherhood is. Who could possibly have a problem with that? Well, as it turns out, a lot of people, starting with the white right. You had a number of them attacking and bad-mouthing these black men. You had some of these creeps saying that this was just the bare minimum. Bare minimum? Well, that begs the question, have any of these armchair Aryans done anything even remotely like this for their own broken community? First of all, these right-wing nut keyboard warriors, most of them don't have any families, thank God. When people talk about incels, who do you think they're talking about? These fools. Incels are practically always some frustrated Fox News buffoon or a Charlie Kirk wannabe, men who women avoid and they can't figure out why. So fortunately, a lot of them will never get to further pollute the gene pool with their clearly defective DNA. But of course, no filter is perfect, so what about the racists who do manage to get some sow pregnant? Well, predictably, these internet loudmouths haven't even tried to put on an event like the Daddy Stroller Social Club, because when it comes to the white right, when they have children, they usually run away from them, and the ones who don't, they usually wind up with some sort of restraining order against them. Gee, can't imagine why. Let's be honest here, if they did try to put on their own little event like this, there's no telling which one of them would be the mass shooter. The Daddy Stroller Social Club, even with the meager amount of attention that they got, it was still more than enough to have these right-wing nuts mega triggered. Clearly, when these reprobates talk about family, they mean only the white ones. Well, black men, as usual, outshined them, and they just couldn't take it. They hate it whenever black men are getting attention, especially for something that happens to be what they consider to be their own private preserve. It goes against the lies, and that's the part that hurt them the most. The Daddy Stroller Social Club event in Dallas got some of the white media's attention, though not nearly enough. What they're doing is not some minor local event and shouldn't be treated like it. Their operation is already spreading to other major cities. Yet, even though the Daddy Stroller Social Club event in Chicago happened not long after the one in Dallas, the white media decided, well, we've already covered this in Dallas, we're not covering this again. And we all know why that is. Stories like this go against the white media narrative. They only want black people on the screen if it's to say that they committed a crime or if they're cheerleading for some white interest group or another. The white media has a vested interest in burying or even attacking any story or event that disproves their anti-black narrative. Demonizing black people is what justifies harming black people in the interest of maintaining white supremacy. And you can't justify harming black people when images of black fathers doing something positive, something that their white racist counterparts aren't doing, are being put in front of people's eyeballs. Now, if it was black men doing some sort of march to support abortion or to support some pet issue of the white left or the white right, that would have gotten plenty of coverage from the major networks. Fox News would have been there, MSNBC, the major networks, the New York Times, because they could use it as a way to bring attention to what matters to them. But this was something that black people and black men in specific were doing in their own interest. And they weren't sock puppets for some white dark money organization like She the People or Black Pac. This was grassroots, and that's what angers them the most. This was done without the permission of the white powers that be, which also means they can't control it and can't intimidate them, and they don't have the ability to cut anybody off. That's one of the things they like to do. You need to go to find yourself some white dark money donors. That way they can let you know that they're going to cut you off if you do something they don't like. They bypass the white gatekeepers. But this was all put together by black men to push back against the white media, and they know it. So after that first story about the Daddy Stroller Club in Dallas, they decided that they were not going to cover this again no matter what. And certainly not in Chicago. After all, Michelle Obama is in Chicago, or at least that's where her mail gets forwarded to, and she lies through her teeth about black men needing to do better, quote unquote. And her henpecked beard does the same. Well, you certainly can't prop up the black men are all deadbeat fathers and they need to be men and go home and raise their families narrative when you have hundreds of black fathers out in public pushing baby strollers. The same way the white supremacists feel compelled to attack these black men, to attack their black families actually, is the same reason these bootlicks like the Obamas and the white media are intimidated from even acknowledging this. Black fathers making it a point to be publicly seen as the head of their households. This is what scares them. Black orthodoxy, the family, which is the building block of any community, being put on full display for everyone to see with black men at the head of it. Because black men leading their families are also black men who will seek to lead the society too. But the visceral and hostile reaction merely to black fathers doing the most harmless and innocuous thing on earth, pushing baby strollers, it's the symbolism of it. That's the part that they hate. As far as they're concerned, oh, you're going to be putting black men on a pedestal like this? You're going to be heaping praise on black men? You can't do that. You can't say anything good about them. It just goes to show that this society absolutely hates black people and is determined to destroy black families. In order for these white supremacists to be a threat to us, they need guns, tanks, they need to saturate the society in anti-black propaganda, they require an overbearing military apparatus, prisons, and to use the most sophisticated forms of surveillance and control against us. But in order for us to threaten these anti-black racists, all we need to do is merely live our lives. Which is why their number one priority is to disrupt that by any means they can. And when something comes along that they can't disrupt, they just lose it. The dominant society knows that they're no match for our dominant genes. When they see a black baby, that reminds them that there will be a future for our people. Meanwhile, other people's birth rates are absolutely plummeting. Perhaps if they spent more time actually trying to build families and less time trying to tear down black families, they could change that. But then again, leopards don't change their spots. Dr. John Henrik Clarke said that the white media is out to control image, particularly our image. Because when you control what people see, you control how they see themselves. Well, in this case, black men took control. Self-determination is the foundation of empowerment. When black men took over the narrative on this one, the online racists were marginalized. They were forced to sit on the sidelines, simply sitting there griping and complaining. The white media, on the other hand, just had to slither away altogether, so we see no difference between the attitude of the online bigots and their broadcast counterparts, many of whom are one and the same. Every time people see stories like this, it makes it that much harder for the white media to go back to the same old anti-black propaganda. The job of the white media is to control people's minds. The job of the black media is to teach you mind control, and by that I mean to control your own mind. That starts by not accepting the lies told to you by the white media. It's not black dysfunction or ignorant behavior that frightens them. Black normalcy is what they fear. Merely black people living their lives. Black men taking their children out for a stroll. People establishing families, raising their families, enjoying the company of other black people. That's what terrifies them. When they see black people acting ignorantly, that reassures white supremacy. White supremacy is about insulating those classified as white from having to compete. And people who are mired in ignorance or in dysfunction, they're not competitive. On the other hand, black people who are focused and organized and active, now they are able to compete. They are a threat. White supremacy makes it a point to look at the horizon all the time to see if there's anything that even could remotely constitute a challenge to them. And whenever they see it, they have to attack. They don't have a choice. So the forces of anti-black racism are doing what they're going to do, which is making as much noise as possible, or being silenced altogether, and I say let them. Let people see the contrast between us and them. The babies in those videos were very well behaved, and that makes sense. They left the crying and the whining to the racists. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Connie Beasley, Leonard Cottingham, Starlet Thompson, James Green, and Abram Pruitt. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.